All right, it's about 4 o'clock in the morning. I got this thing together yesterday, and the only thing left I had to do was bleed the clutch. And just so you know, I absolutely hate hydraulic clutches because you got to deal with this little teeny tiny reservoir right here that holds about a teaspoon of fluid. And then the way that the master cylinder's in there is it's at an angle, so getting the air out of it is very problematic. And I had the vacuum bleeder down there, modulating the pedal inside the car with somebody, and then trying to pump or vacuum rather the system. And I mean, the problem is you do it a couple times, you get any amount of fluid out, and then you got to come top it off, because if you're running out of fluid, then you're back to square one by getting air in the system through here. So we tried, and my wife helped me initially. She was up in the car with it on the lift, and then I was underneath it. And then my little cousin came yesterday, and we worked on the Jeep over here. Got a lot done on it, but he helped me. He helped me bleed this because we had to get it where we could get it off the lift. And so we parked it, and then started working on the Jeep. So he brought new wheels and tires he'd gotten for it, which of course are covered up by the door. But he got some fake beating lock. These are 35s. We got the transfer case linkage modified and figured out. But because of the MP241, the pattern's different than the shifter. So I noticed a lot of people when they mess with these, I don't know that. From what I found looking for solutions for the shifter was a cable. So this is kind of a mechanical linkage that bolts to the transfer case, and then has a rod that comes from the down lever of the shifter to a pivot with an adjuster. Well, not an adjuster, just like a pivot rod plate. And then it's got another linkage that goes back to the transfer case. So anyway, we screwed around with it, had to cut and weld and modify. And then we got to trim the back of this right here, so when he pulls the shifter all the way up, it wasn't all the way engaging. I think it's 4 high. So got the oil sending unit in, got the VSS pigtail on, got his speedometer working, which is why I'm up so early screwing with this thing, because when we finally got to drive it yesterday, I noticed the speedometer wasn't working. So you know me, time he left and I got in bed and everything, I was asleep because I was tired, and then woke up 3 o'clock and was like, I got to figure out why the speedometer's not working. So I had it in the garage down at the house, because that's where this one stays. And you can tell spring is in full effect with all the pollen all over it. But anyway, so I tried to mess with it down in the garage, and then I was like, you know what, the shop's open, the lift's open, I'll just wake everybody up and drive it up here. So I drove it up here, threw it on the rack, and then, just everything's running through my mind. I'm trying to figure out why in the world is the speedometer not working. I know everything's plugged in. I get it up in the air, checking the pigtail, and on the back of the transmission at the bottom is I assume it's a temperature sensor. It looks like a temperature sensor. And then at the right straight above it is the VSS, a speed sensor. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, well, I'll unplug this. And, I thought maybe I'd pinched the wires up here or something. That was what was running through my mind. And then all of a sudden I looked at both plugs, and sure enough, both of them are the exact same connector. The VSS and that temperature sensor, which is the same as the coolant temp sensor. They all three have the same plug. So I unplugged both of them, pulled them down, looked at both of them, and I'm like, that's where I screwed up. So I had those plugs backwards. So I think I got it fixed now, but I couldn't sleep, and I've made a cup of coffee. So anyway, another thing, the check engine light was on, and I'm pretty sure it's because of NOx sensors. So you can see this harness back here, that goes to the Gen 3 NOx sensors, and now that this is a Gen 4 6.2, it doesn't have the NOx sensors. So here's the harness it should have, that would have the NOx sensors underneath. And then let's see if I can see one. There we go. So these right here are your typical, are your Gen 3 NOx sensors that go under the valley, under the intake. So these are single wire, and then the Gen 4 has a 2-wire sensor on the bottom of the block on each side of the engine, and that's how those operate. So obviously I want all that to work because I want to be able to have a good safe tune-up in this, and then with it being almost 11-to-1 static compression, I want to make sure that I don't want to detonate it at all. So I was looking around, and there was a video where they took, well, this one's the Gen 3 that came out. So there's a Boss right here on the side of the block below the motor mounts, which the motor mount on the Cadillac encompasses these front two and then the back two, but it only uses the back one over here. And then it's the same size thread as the motor mount bolt holes, but on the Gen 4, the sensor here, the Boss here, is a smaller thread size. So I think it was Scogan's Dickey. They actually drilled and tapped theirs and put them in here. But I found where ICT makes a little aluminum block, that it has the right size thread that goes in here, bolts the aluminum around this Boss, and then you can put the sensor this direction, this way. So it gives you a myriad of choices to run that. So I ordered a set of those, one for each side, so I can run these, and then I'll just extend the harness up to there. But I think that they're the same as so it's the same thread on the back of the head. So I might just screw it in the back of the head right now just to get the light off. So first impressions driving it, I'm not impressed. Obviously I couldn't really get on it because I don't want to mess up my brand new $1,200 clutch. And the tune seems to be fine. It cranked up and ran and everything seemed good. It runs good. It is a little loud. You probably can't really tell from the idle video I posted, but for a Cadillac, it is a little loud. So and I like the tips. I don't know if I showed those. I probably did. But anyway, I like how the tips turned out. I think they fit and look great. But so it's got these are Flowmaster FXs on the back, and then the headers came with some little cherry bomb short looking little mufflers that are on there. So I don't know if you'd really call them a muffler, but they did have some packing material around it and looked like they would do maybe a minute bit of muffling. But it is a little loud. It's not too bad in the car, but I think I'm gonna get a muffler like the one I used on the Trailblazer, and take the X pipe out and put that 2 in, 2 out muffler in there. So then I'll have 5 mufflers, and it should be knock it down sufficient. Now, these mufflers that I'm using are all straight through mufflers, so there shouldn't be a whole lot of restriction by adding the other muffler in the middle. So the stock, you had manifolds, cats, and then there was a muffler, a 2 in, 2 out muffler right below the drive shaft, and then it had the 2 mufflers at the back. So you had the same amount. You had 5 muffling devices. So I'll drive it and see how it is. Like I say, I would like it to be a little bit quieter, so I'll probably end up getting that muffler and toning it down just a little bit more. The radio, I absolutely hate the radio. It's the one that come out of it. It had a DVD player. That's kind of crazy, because I'm sure you couldn't watch it while it was going, because most of the ones I know you can't do that. And it had a CD and DVD, and I mean, if the screen wasn't whatever, I would have kept it, because I'm a factory radio guy. I don't care about sound systems or anything. I like the factory radio typically 99% of the time. But anyway, this thing has all these wires and crap. So it's got a microphone, it's got a backup camera, which I would like to utilize, and then the GPS thing. So I gotta pull it out and put all that on. But as far as like functionality and all, it looks great. I will give it that. It does looks so much better. But I don't know how to use it. Maybe that's probably the main issue, is I don't know how to use it. So maybe my buddy that recommended the radio that took 2 months to get here can just sit down with me and go over how it works, and then maybe I like it then. Maybe so. The shifter is jam up. I mean, it's pretty nice. It's gonna take some getting used to, such a shorter throw, a tighter shifter and everything. So it is very close ratio, and it's very tight and precise now. It is a lot better, a lot more engaging than the other shifter was. So like I say, the power, didn't really get on, and it really didn't feel that spectacular to me. Of course, really anything below 600 is not really that impressive. But like I say, maybe, I don't think that not having the knock sensors is affecting it, like as far as performance, if it's changing the timing table, or I asked Michael, but he said it shouldn't affect anything. But I didn't know, with the check engine light being on and not having the knock sensors, if it defaults to something, or I don't really know. I've never really looked into it, because typically if you don't have them, you turn them off, or you have them and desensitize them and whatnot. So. But anyway, I would like to have the knock sensors, and then I want to drive it some, see how it is, and then take it down there to Michael, and then get it fully dialed in. But as far as running and all, it did fine. It cranks up and runs and stays idling and all. 1 or 2 times while we were driving, it did shut off. So I'm not sure what that's about. But he just went through, and I gave him all the cam specs and the injectors and all that stuff, and then he, gave it his best guess on everything, which, is pretty good, because, like I say, he does it enough that he knows his guesses are very, very good guesses because he has enough background to know what he's putting in. So, like I say, it runs good. It really doesn't have that much of a chop to it or whatever, which he knows that I don't like that. He knows I want it to be, nice, tame, stock sounding as possible. And it's, he's pretty good at it. He can get the airflow and the timing and all right, so it just sits there and just a nice smooth idle versus a real choppy idle. So he did a good job on it because, like I say, it just sounds louder, because of the exhaust and the headers and everything. So like I say, hopefully we'll get it ironed out. I don't know what kind of power it'll put down. Somebody was saying or thinking, maybe 500. I don't know. I don't see it, but it's 11 to 1, 6.2, an aftermarket set of heads. We should have plenty of injector. We got flex injectors from L77 Caprice. The headers, it's a decent camshaft. I think power band's 3 to 7,000, and it's 600 lift. I do want to get a new air box, Volude or something. They got a nice box that sits here in a better tube. This kind of looks jank, but Michael gave me this for free, and it looked a little more right in here on the stock one. It was a little restrictive. So I'd like to get that done, and then guys got a 4-bolt silver blade LS2 throttle body, which should open this up a lot because this is a very tiny throttle body. So I think that should make a decent difference on NA. Now boosted, you're really not going to tell a difference unless it's a LSA, and then that's an LSA and an NA. It's critical because that'll make or break you having a good enough size opening for the throttle body, because you don't have on the blower, it's trying to suck the air, and you want as least a restriction as you can. And then an NA, same thing, and turbo, it doesn't matter. It's going to take it. You're not really going to notice a difference in going from this throttle body to a larger throttle body. So anyway, it's together. We run it and drove it. And like I say, now it's just kind of the fine tuning and tweaking of everything to get it dialed in and all. But happy to have it back together. Happy to drive it. I wish I knew how to work the radio, but I guess I need to step up to modern times and learn the newer radios and stuff. But I'm gonna go see if the speedometer works, and we'll go from there.